Down go the Chiefs in the Super Bowl rematch, Trey. Fought through wind, water, cool air, and came up short.
Yeah, it happens. So I'm remember we talked about a couple weeks ago after the Broncos lost that after you get Monday and Tuesday you got to snap back. Well, this one's a little more difficult since we played on Monday night, but I'm snapping back tomorrow morning. I'm kind of soaking in the loss right now. Wearing a ground fit. Yeah, I've been kind of sleazy today, and wearing a 2004 Sugar Bowl sweater here. Oklahoma lost to LSU. Yeah, just a sucker of a sweater right here, and I'm gonna take it off tomorrow and get back after it, baby.
My guy's sulking in the losing vibes. I feel that. Chiefs drop one to the Eagles 21-17. Had plenty opportunities at the end of the game to try and come back and steal it back from the Eagles after they, came back on us. We were up 17-7 at the half. Ultimately fell short, man. And now we're wearing hoodies on a Tuesday night, sulking. What flavor ice cream are you eating after this?
I'm a vanilla guy. Vanilla.
You're
just
vanilla?
Plain vanilla too. Yeah.
Vanilla or vanilla bean? I
tub.
think that's an important distinction.
Is there a difference there, really?
Oh, dude. Vanilla bean is the way to go.
Check. Yeah, I'm more of a cookie guy anyways. More of a cookie guy.
Yeah, cookies can't go wrong.
Yeah, it was tough to watch. Obviously there's some downfalls that we saw in the team last night. There's been a lot of talk today and a lot of thoughts as a Chiefs fan. You're sitting around, you're working on something during the day at work, and then you have that little 30-second blank space of nothing where you're just kind of walking somewhere and you're like, man,
damn,
what if Pacheco had the ball 5 more times or something like that, So there's those thoughts, but it's a holiday week, and it's Raider week, and we gotta turn it back over, and we gotta get back after it. So, we gotta do the same on the show, Dan. We can't be sitting here all mopey all the time,
Nah,
all
dude,
these losses, and so we gotta get back in it. No,
don't have time for all that.
Well, with that being said, yeah, let's take it to the player of the game. Player of the game, Dan. Who you got?
Dark cloud always got to be a silver lining, my friend. Player of the game for me is Chris Jones. The pressure that he was constantly forcing on the Eagles. I mean, that's a really good offensive line. Features a couple of all pros, even more Pro Bowlers on that offensive line. And Chris Jones was able to wreak some havoc. 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Some of that pressure coming in critical moments. I really was just loving the energy that he was playing with last night. I feel like the last couple of weeks, we haven't heard much out of Chris Jones. I know you kind of talked about it in our last show, how he was kind of quiet. We weren't really getting the typical 9-5 out there. And I just feel like I need to wear the 9-5 to Arrowhead more often, because every time I do, he gets a couple sacks.
Yeah. No, it was good to see. And like you said, a quiet couple weeks, so it's nice to see him kind of bounce back and be a big part of that defense that we saw last night. But I'm going with the guy that's on the defense as well, Trent McDuffie. Back-to-back weeks, I'm going with Trent McDuffie here. This guy's an all-pro. From what we've seen so far in the season, this is all-pro caliber football we're seeing out of him. Last night, 2 sacks, 4 tackles. If we look at the Pro Football Focus grade, he was the highest graded Chiefs in the game last night against the Eagles at 87.6. And if you look at the receiving core for the Eagles on what they were able to produce, it wasn't, the numbers we typically see out of the A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith offense. So Devontae Smith had 99 yards. A.J. Brown had that 1 reception for 8 yards. So we did a phenomenal job of playing those top guys, playing those number one receivers, just like we talked about last week coming into the game, that we've done this a couple of times this year now. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. Now add
Yep.
A.J. Brown to that list. This defense has been playing phenomenal football, and you can't just chalk it up to Trent McDuffie, right? So, but I'm going to focus on him here, and he had a phenomenal game. The 2 sacks were a big damn deal, and I'm pretty sure one of those is a strip sack, but Jalen Hurts fell on top of it, which was a phenomenal play. Great to see come from behind. He had no idea he was there, but phenomenal play from Trent McDuffie, man. I look forward to him being an All-Pro. Well-deserved. Although it puts us in a tough situation at the end of the season, how are we going to address the cornerback situation with Jerry Sneed being up for a contract here? But both playing great ball, man. Jerry Sneed's playing great ball as well. But yeah, I'm going with Trent McDuffie for the game, bro.
Dude, Trent McDuffie made one of my favorite plays from the game. Just it was in the same series, 2 screen passes, just all over it, deflected it. Very easily could have had a pick six later in the game. Just was a hair off from grabbing that ball out of the air. I love that pick, Trent McDuffie. If I'd beaten you to the sheet, I probably would have put 22 on there myself. So, big ups for Trent McDuffie for sure.
Yeah. So Dan,
Those players of the
moving
game.
into yeah. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, those players of the game brought to you by the Atlas Saloon, our partners here at the Fastest 40. You can take it all the way back to 1894 when the establishment was built. Schlitz put that thing together, and the Atlas made it what it is today. Keith Hudson, head brewmaster there, has been brewing beer since 2018, about 10 different craft beers on tap. I'm sure the crowd was live on Monday night. Unfortunately, they had to leave a little bit disappointed, which is a bummer. But plenty of events going on throughout the week. Free pool on Tuesdays. You got your open mic night on Wednesdays. A lot of fun stuff going on. Make sure you go on Thursdays though. That's got to be, if you're not going for a Chiefs game, Thursday is the night to go because you get a free beer if you have yourself an Atlas Saloon t-shirt. So check them out in Excelsior Springs. Great establishment, a lot of great people, and a lot of fun. Just a lot of fun to be there. So definitely want to shout them out as our partners for the players of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And to jump right into the game points, we got a lot to dissect here with what happened last night on Monday Night Football against the Eagles and what was a big game for us and the Eagles and the NFL really as a whole. But as we bring this one in, looking at the injury report, there's nothing from Andy Reid saying that anybody is kind of on the radar for him. Most watched Monday night game in 25 years. So 28.9 million viewers, which is phenomenal. We talked about how this was going to be such a big game going into the game and how it really wasn't talked about quite a bit. But obviously, then everybody showed out and wanted to watch the game last night on Monday night. And I'll say, from my perspective, our perspective up there in the stands and our season tickets there it was a lot of red. I had really expected Philly to travel a lot better than they did. And I was expecting, at least like a 35-40% show out from Philly fans. But, man, it was probably down in like 15% is what I'm thinking. So out in the parking lot, I was like, wow, there's quite a few Philly fans out here, looking around. They moved to the stadium a lot quicker than we do. They're trying to experience the stadium. There's not much for them to do out in the parking lot if they're not prepared to fully tailgate like we are. But once we got in the stadium, man, she was red. She was red, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised too. I mean, you walk around Kansas City, you were seeing a lot of green jerseys, a lot of Eagles fans showing out, and they do travel well. I mean, just looking back at the Super Bowl, the vast majority of the fans out there in Arizona was Philly fans. So definitely surprising. I feel like there were more Lions fans in Arrowhead for the opening home opener as opposed to this game, which was definitely a surprise. Not something I expected for that game for sure.
Yeah. So to jump right into, kind of dive into how we saw the game last night, we're going to bring this in with Better Homes and Gardens, specifically my wife, Katie Lawrence, who is a realtor for Better Homes and Gardens. She's looking to serve the Kansas City area, really the whole state of Missouri. So She can help you buy, sell, build your dream home, whatever you're looking for. She's going to be that buffer between you and whatever paperwork and all the nitty gritty you got to do to buy or sell a home. So be sure to get a hold of Katie. Her information is right here on the YouTube page. Or if you're not watching on YouTube, you can get a hold of her at 816-868-1920. Dan, you want to talk offense? You want to talk defense first? Where are we going, bro?
Let's start with the defense. Let's get the good stuff out of the way because there's going to be a lot more discourse on the bad. So, defense, man, hell of a game again from those guys. Held them to 7 points in the first half. Ended up with 21 points to an offense that averages about 28 points a game. So, holding Philly about a touchdown below what their average is, pretty impressive. Sacked Jalen Hurts 5 times, forced him to throw an interception as well. So we were able to generate a turnover from a team that is very safe when it comes to the ball. They're very protective of it. Just awesome stuff. The one thing our defense wasn't able to do was stop the tush push in just about every scenario that they rolled that thing out, which, welcome to the other 31 teams in the NFL that can't stop it. But other than the tush push, man, we were locked and loaded on defense. Obviously held AJ Brown to well below his standard, just 1 catch for 8 yards. Being someone who rosters AJ Brown on 2 fantasy teams, that wasn't very thrilling on that side of things. But we kind of talked about it. I don't know if it was on the show or off the show, but Devontae Smith was going to be the one we were worried about coming into this game because of how we were going to be keying on A.J. Brown. We knew we could trust Snead and McDuffie to lock him up a little bit. We've seen what he's done with some of those other receivers. I don't think we expected it to come to that extent, 1 catch for 8 yards. But Devontae Smith ended up getting just a shade under 100 yards, I think 99 yards receiving, and almost had a touchdown. You could pretty much credit him with the assist since Jalen Hurts got the tush push touchdown on that 41-yard reception. But I mean, altogether, our defense is balling out. Without those guys, this would have been an embarrassing blowout.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And the defense is playing phenomenal football, as you've mentioned numerous times now. But to hold another team under 22 points, just another stack for those guys. And against another good offense. A lot of people were saying after Miami that was a shame that we beat Miami. We held one good offense to limited points. But here we are again with the Jalen Hurts-led offense with 2 phenomenal receivers and DeAndre Swift in the backfield to minimal yards. We had more passing yards, more rushing yards, and more first downs than the Eagles did. We just couldn't finish the game. So, hats off to the defense and what they've done. But with that being said, it's going to kind of drive the conversation into the offense on what we saw last night, which was the offense that we wanted to see in the first half and the offense that we have all feared that we were going to continue to see from the last 5 weeks in the second half. And a season low, 177 yards for Pat Mahomes in the air. I think he did have 38 yards on the ground. He had the strip sack, but a focal point, man, has got to be the 0 points in the second half. And I think somebody said it last night at the tailgate when we got back to the bus, was that we're averaging like 5 points in the fourth quarter this year, or we haven't scored. We've scored, I think, 13 points since week 5 is what another one was that was brought up. And so when those are your stats, man, you can't expect to finish games. And when the defense is on the field for, they're on the field for a 6-minute drive, and then the offense comes out and they make 5 plays, and then they're off the field, and then the defense is back out there for 6 or 7 minutes, like that's tough to keep up with, and it's tough to keep pace with as an offense, because you're consistently thinking about how we're going to keep up. And okay, we're up 10, but now we're up 3, and now we're down 4, and it's constant pressure from those guys. And at some point, it's going to have to break one way to where we either start to lose games that we really shouldn't lose, or we're going to start to figure it out and start to ramble on some and start to really compete in the third, fourth quarter. So it's going to be exciting to see. But guys like Pacheco, who just averaged 4.7 yards a carry last night with 89 yards, only 7 carries in the second half, and where he had, I think it was 12 or 13 carries in the first half, where we, maybe, I mean, we were up 10 going into half, and so why we're not running the ball in the third quarter heavy is a question mark for me, and one I can't answer. But outside of that, we got 2 really key points here. You want to talk turnovers, and then you got to talk drops. 2 key factors that led to the loss that we saw last night and our other 2 losses that we have this year.
Well, before we get into that, I just want to highlight our second half woes as well. I mean, 0 points, that's the 3rd straight game we've scored 0 points in the second half where our offense is just completely stalled out. Obviously, those 2 points that you mentioned, the turnovers, the drops, those are key contributors as to why we couldn't get those points on the board. But that stat you were talking about, 5.3 points scored on average per game in the second half this season is abysmal. I mean, we're definitely not accustomed to that. I mean, if anything, over Mahomes' tenure, we average 10 points in the first half and another 21 in the second half, just based on how our offense typically was the second half get started. Whatever we got in the first half, we knew that output was going to be so much greater. And that's been the exact opposite of what we've gotten this year, which for fans, it's incredibly frustrating, obviously. But for those players, I mean, I think, they've almost got a case of the yips where they're just expecting to come out in the second half and fall flat. And when you come in with that mindset and that energy, it doesn't do you any favors. And, we just need a slump buster of some sort. We need this game against the Raiders. We can talk more about that later. But our energy coming into the second half of these games, I mean, you could see it on Travis Kelce. We started talking about it, right? It's looking like Travis Kelce is getting tired. And then this story comes out about him but contemplating retirement. And it's a constant theme that as soon as a player starts openly talking about it and thinking about it, they're ready, right? Anytime we see that happen, we know the end is near. And so I just would really, if Travis isn't 100% in it, and I'm not saying that's the case, but his energy did not make me feel like he was up for the challenge on Monday night. I don't know. Did you get a different vibe?
I got the same thing. And I think we talked about it last night at the game too. And I think part of what went into that was I didn't really notice it before the fumble, but after the fumble, there was like maybe a drive, maybe 2 drives after that on offense where it was like 3 and out, and then it was like maybe 4 plays and turned the ball over again. And I looked over and I was like, dude, this offense is done. After that fumble, everybody wrapped it up and they're like, man, if Travis can't do it, none of us do it. And that's not how it went on the sidelines or what the vibe was on the sidelines, but that's how it felt, man. It's like any bit of wind that we had in the sail was just completely sucked out, and they're like, man, we just can't beat these guys. Let's just wrap it up and we'll move on and go play the Raiders next week. And again, that's probably not the attitude on the sideline, but that is how the play looked on the field from my angle up there in section 308.
It was way more apparent after the fumble for sure. And it could have been, I mean, this can all be a coincidence too, right? It can just be the story drops just at the same time we play the Eagles, who were double and triple teaming him all game. I mean, Travis Kelce's been getting roughed up, probably a little more than usual. We know his age is a factor coming into the season, so teams are trying to take advantage of that a little bit. He's like a half step slower than what we've seen in years past. Not to mention he's getting zero help in the passing game, right? Which, maybe that's a good segue into the issue, but no one is supporting him in the passing game. And Mahomes doesn't have anyone that he trusts outside of 87. And so that makes a defensive coordinator's job so much easier when they know they just have to focus on one guy and, let the rest of the team try and beat you if they can. We know that they're going to flounder eventually, and the Chiefs haven't done
Yeah.
anything offensively to prove anyone wrong.
Yeah. 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 I mean, to go into that, there were some odd looks last night, and we talked about this last night too. A lot of two tight end sets, which we do see with the Andy Reid offense, but a lot of motion with both of those guys running the motion at the same time and in step with each other. And then one other thing, as far as personnel and game plan, Jerick McKinnon was lined up wide numerous times last night. I probably couldn't count on one hand how many times he was the wide
Yeah.
receiver out wide with the guy in the slot between him and the ball, which is odd to me. Like he's a great
Using a
route
lot of
runner
trick
out of the
sets. Yeah.
backfield, but is he the guy out wide? Like, is that something we've been looking at, or what was the conversation there, which was interesting for me? But yeah, to go
Yeah.
back
I mean,
to who's
from what
been so yeah, go ahead.
From what I noticed from him lining up wide is they would motion him almost every time he did line up wide, and then he would end up in the backfield, except for maybe one or two plays where he ended up, running a route, and typically he stayed in the flat or did some shallow cross or something. Like it wasn't anything too, too crazy that they were having him run. It's not like he was, running fades or anything like that. But I don't know. I mean, we saw what he did at the back half of last year, and typically that was in the shotgun, right? He'd run a little wheel route and catch a pass along the sideline, or get him in a screen and run a design to him in the passing game that way. I would have liked to have seen some plays like that. I'd like to get him involved again. I don't know why we're pivoting from that, but I don't know. Andy Reid will, anytime he's in a presser, he'll tell you the opposite, right? Oh, I'm not hiding anything. We're not reserving anything. We're putting everything we got out on the field every time. But then you end up getting to the playoffs or later in the season, you find all these new wrinkles and looks in the offense, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, did the players just not grasp the concept earlier, and now we're trying to push it out because they're getting a little more accustomed to it? I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on there, but there always seems to be. I feel like the Chiefs organization lies to the fans a lot. And so I take a lot of it with a grain of salt when I
Sure,
hear
sure,
Andy
sure.
Reid or anybody say something about, and that I think a lot of it's by design. They don't want to show their cards to everyone else, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, let's talk. You talked about trust earlier a little bit with Pat Mahomes and his receiving core. 26 drops so far this season between for the Chiefs. Leads the league right now. What we saw last night, I didn't count the total. I can tell you Watson had 3, Travis had 1, Rashee Rice had 1. And I honestly I don't know on top of that, but obviously MVS had the one to put us over the top and put us ahead out there in fourth quarter, which that one counts as 10. So I mean, technically we're sitting at it would be 36 drops then for the Chiefs if you count that one as 10. So uh, tough to see, man. It's the trust for Pat to be able to go to those guys on second and long, third and long, fourth and 26, whatever it may be, is it's shrunk quite a bit, right? And you can only do so much with Travis Kelce on fourth and 26. He's not the big deep post guy anymore. He's a
yeah.
he's a find a gap and then get some yak after that. So, uh, Watson had been talked about pretty heavily up until this game as being old faithful, and what a dime on the corner route there at midfield, and what a catch! But like I said, dropped 3 balls last night, and you just can't drop the football, man. And it's just such a crucial part. And it's something that's kind of underrated until you see a guy's drop a bunch of balls, and then you're like, man, what the hell is this, right? So tough to watch. It was tough. That was really tough to watch last night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much the weather attributed to that. Obviously, we drops been an issue the entire season. 21% of Patrick Mahomes' incompletions you could attribute to drops. Now, drops can be a little bit of a vague stat, right? Like if it hits them in the hands, okay, great. But like if the ball was thrown well behind them and it hits them in the hands, it's a little bit of a tougher, pass to catch. So, but I mean, for the most part, we've seen critical drops that are very routine catches. I'm not going to say they're easy catches, right? Because these guys are in the NFL, they're doing it at the highest level, but it's routine for most NFL players that we see, and we're just not
Yeah.
making the routine plays routine anymore. And I don't know. They better run the shit out of those jug machines this week and next week and the week after and get these guys' hands ready to catch some balls because it is going to bite us. I can just feel it. I can foresee it.
Yeah.
If I have my crystal ball and I rub the crystal ball, I can see a critical third down in a playoff game that somebody drops a pass because that's been, I mean, it's the problems that you see in teams, for however flawed they are right now in the regular season, oftentimes that's foreshadowing as to what's going to, be their demise in the playoffs. And this drop situation is something that I keep seeing over and over and over again. And it's just kind of ingraining that problem in my brain. However big the drop issue is, I think the turnover issue is just as big. Right? The Chiefs are second in the league in turnovers
that was
to
a
the
big deal.
Buffalo Bills. Second in the league in turnovers to the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have played one more game than us. And last night, for us to go into that game and get 2 turnovers from our arguably 2 best players on the roster, Mahomes being the best for sure, Kelsey at this point in his career, I don't know, maybe you can say we got some defensive players that are maybe higher on that scale, but the 2 best offensive players by far, no contest, caused these 2 turnovers for us, and those are supposed to be the guys that we rely on in these situations.
Yeah.
And Mahomes has a horrid throw in the end zone straight to an Eagles defender, and then Kelsey got peanut punched inside the 10. What makes those turnovers so bad is that they occurred in the red zone.
Yeah. Yep.
Those 2 plays, along with the MVS drop, are one of those plays goes differently, and we win that game. Just one of those plays has to go differently.
That's a good point.
The fact that all 3 of those plays happened the way that they did, I mean, it's just infuriating. And I don't know, they need to have some sort of come to Jesus in that locker room and figure something out because they're just, I don't know. I will say commendable on the press responses for Mahomes and company. They're taking responsibility. I need to do better. I need to do this. They're very humble for sure. But damn. Humble's not a stat on the football field.
No, and if it was, we'd be undefeated so far this season.
We'd be 11-0.
Yeah. Dan, a cool little segment here that was just put together for this show here. So calling it the mailbag, getting a little feedback from the listeners out there for the Fastest 40. Bring us in, kind of tell us what this is looking like right here.
Yeah, so we put some feelers out there. I'll even check one more time to see if we had any other last minute questions, but we put some feelers out there. We're going to start doing this every once in a while to gauge some opinions out there from Chiefs Kingdom, kind of see where everybody's head's at with the team. Obviously, this being a big loss, this could have been a statement win for the team. A game that we should have had handily, based on what the result of the first half was, and we ultimately choked it out and didn't do a damn thing in the second half. So it's always good to see, where Chiefs Kingdom's at and kind of what they're thinking. So first one I'll touch on was the game cold in the rain from EJ Waggy? I will say yes. It was very cold. I don't know if you can tell over the mic, but I'm definitely congested from that game. sitting out in the rain. It did not stop. Like no
No.
reprieve.
Yeah. It was like a bowl of wet. Like it wasn't raining, there was just moisture in the air and the wind was blowing the shit around. Like it was just wet. But I will say this is the first time in my career, my life, that I have over prepared on the cold. I was warm. I was fine. The cold eats me alive. So anytime it's under 50 degrees, like I get cold. And when I get cold, I stay cold. But last night I was good to go. I had the wet weather top on, just shucking off the raindrops. And then I had the layers on,
Beautiful.
dude, and I was good to go. But yeah, it was the water, the moisture was just that sucked. That was pretty miserable. But
Yeah. If I had a hat, I didn't bring a beanie. Typically I do. If I had a beanie, it would have been a totally different game for me, I think. That was the difference. So EJ,
yeah,
Waggy, my boy
that's a
Ethan,
rookie move.
it was cold for sure. Another funny one here. Are the Chiefs hosting open tryouts? I am ready. Adam AT. I I mean I'd love to see you try out, Adam. You got that. I think he's 6'4", 6'5" frame. I don't know. He could shadow Kelsey for a
Yeah,
couple weeks and get that technique down.
yeah, give it a shot, brother. Just go ahead and get out there and get some.
All right, we'll get to some more game related questions here, but from Brig Squad, what is the plan for the Chiefs this season and next season at wide receiver? I think at this season it's a little too late to make any moves, right? We didn't hit the trade
Yeah,
deadline,
yeah,
and barring somebody getting miraculously released like what we saw with Shaquille Leonard today, there's really not going to be a scenario where I see us signing anybody as a free agent or claiming anybody off of waivers that's really going to move the needle for us. In my
yep,
opinion, we address wide receiver next year, maybe in the draft, maybe free agency. We'll see what kind of cap we have, what flexibility looks like there, but that's a March problem. That's no longer a regular season problem for us. At least now a problem we can
yep. No,
solve. It
couldn't
is a
agree more.
problem.
Yeah, yeah. You got to focus on what we got and develop what we got in house. And like you said, that's a March problem. Got to move on. Got to move on.
All right, I got one for you from Brocka Flocka, our boy Brock McCullough. Where have Sky and MVS been this season, and why did they abandon the run in that game? Trey, what do you got for him?
To answer the first one, I think there's been a accumulation of mistrust between Pat and those two guys, which has come to a point where he doesn't feel that he can trust to throw the ball to those guys. Where in the past we've seen Pat be able to throw within a 5 yard radius to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelsey, and those guys will go get the football. He can't throw
Yep.
within the 3 yard window. Those guys of Sky Moore and MVS and trust that they're going to come down with that ball. So I think that's where that comes from. And now as far as the run, I don't know if we abandoned the run like we've seen in the past. We've seen in the past where we run for 75, 80 yards in the first half, and then we run maybe once or twice in the second half, which is god awful. But at least Pacheco got the ball 7 times in the second half. I don't think we abandoned the run, but we definitely did not utilize the run the way we should have in the second half.
Yep. Definitely not as efficient, for sure. We should have put a little more
Yeah.
volume into it in certain scenarios. Um, is Nagy to blame for all of our offensive issues? Steven So 55. I think this is an interesting question. It's kind of been tossed around a lot lately, for Chiefs circles, Twitter, different radio talk shows, that kind of thing. Obviously, with Eric Bieniemy, the offense was humming the last 4 seasons, and then he leaves to go to Washington. We get Nagy elevated. Him and Mahomes have a great relationship, and then all of a sudden we're a little stale. Now,
Yep.
here's my take on this, and I'll let you, um, say your thoughts on it too. Since when has Andy Reid allowed anyone besides himself to call the plays on the offensive side of the ball, right?
That I can tell you.
I mean, anytime we're in a press conference, it's I need to call it better in that situation. I should have dialed this one up. I should have done that. I should have done this. He takes full responsibility for the play calling. He's come right out and told the media that he's the one calling the plays. So, is Matt Nagy responsible for a lot of our issues? Maybe he's not explaining concepts the right way, or
Yeah.
he just has a different approach that's not really coming across to the guys. If you want to frame it that way, I could see that as potential for some potential responsibility in that realm. But for the play calling itself, I won't put that on him. What are your thoughts?
I think he holds some of the blame. I don't think I don't think he's a scapegoat, but I don't think he's scot free. So, and
Hmm.
I was talking to a buddy at work about this today, and where he said the same thing, right? Andy Reid calls the plays, he owns the offense. You know, Matt Nagy is a clipboard guy. He's got a clipboard. What else is he doing? I don't on game day. I don't know, but he is responsible for everything that happens in between Monday and Saturday, assuming we play every Sunday, right? So he is responsible for how the guys are developing. You know what's going on in the meeting rooms. Andy Reid's not in every meeting room. The offensive coordinator is in charge of how those meetings are held. You know, decentralized command through every position group on the offense. So I think he does have he does have a skin in the game here, you know, and I don't think there's direct correlation between EB leaving and going to Washington and our offense falling off the cliff. I think this was something that had kind of been in the works for a season, maybe a full season now, going into last season. But yeah, Matt Nagy's got some of the blame for sure.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Definitely not free of blame. 100%.
Yeah.
Final thing on the mailbag here. Mahomes is still in a category of one routine mistakes and drops are costing this team. Surprise underscore shocker on IG. I mean, obviously, still the best, most talented quarterback in the NFL. He has not played up to par, this season. Career lows in a lot of ways, career highs in one category, interceptions that we don't want, at least up to this point in the season. So, you know, I don't know. It seems like it is routine mistakes. It's routine mistakes every time we talk about turnovers. Those are situations where we turn a routine play into something horrible. Um, those drops in those third down, fourth down situations, penalties. Okay, penalties on us, pushing us into 4th and 25 in a game clinching scenario. Those are killers, right? And it doesn't matter. You can take whatever ideas you have about the quality of the officiating in the league and throw them out the window because the standard's the standard when it comes to that. And you just got to play it knowing the standard. So, I mean, it's just a little bit of undisciplined mistakes in what should be routine plays that are killing the team. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave it. You said it perfectly, but I'll leave it with Pat Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the league, and I still have full confidence in that he can make plays and lead this team to multiple victories and potentially Super Bowl. So that's still where my head's at on that.
Absolutely. I'm not out on the Super Bowl at all. At all. A lot of folks out there in Chiefs Kingdom think the sky's falling, thinks it's time to sell. I don't know what the deal is there, but let's
Time
not
to
freak
sell
out,
some
okay?
Mo.
Let's not act spoiled, all right? We are in we are having all of these issues and have managed to go 7-3 through the first 11 weeks of the NFL season, and we are a half game back because the Ravens haven't had a bye from the 1 seed.
Yep.
So let's not freak out. We'll move it into the
Yep.
AFC
Yeah.
landscape to
Speaking
wrap
of
the
the
show. What's up, Trey?
That was it. I was about to bring us in, baby, and you just kicked us off.
Well, this is brought to you by eCoffee, our KC local coffee friends, www.eeroastscoffee.com. I mean, they got the best coffee. There's no comparison for me. The espresso has been my calling card here in the winter. I'm guilty. I like my oat milk lattes. Like some honey in there. So just give me some of that. In the summer, I'm taking their beans, grinding them up, and making some cold brew in the cold brew pitcher that I got here. So make sure you check them out. They have some quality product, and it's here KC local, so you'll be supporting some Chiefs fans, and they have a phenomenal story. So check them out, www.eeroastcoffee.com. Key matchups from this week in week 11. Baltimore Cincy. Baltimore gets the dub over Cincy 34-20. Joe Burrow goes down for the season. That takes the Bengals off of our radar pretty much.
Yep.
Any
Yeah,
thoughts
nice to
there?
see. Nice to see as far as like a Chiefs fan aspect. Obviously I don't want to see Joe Burrow go down. You don't want to see guys get hurt, but
Right.
definitely wasn't a team I wanted to see. I didn't want to play Joe Burrow in the playoffs.
I mean, we have a right to fear him a little bit. He's a baller, man.
Yep. Yep.
Early season struggles aside, he's a baller, and you never want to see. I was disappointed personally because I think the league's better when the Bengals are cooking and Burrow's strutting around, and it gives you kind of a
Yeah.
villain. Now I feel like we don't have that villain
Yeah.
in the AFC because the Bills are floundering a little bit, but we'll see how that pans out. Cleveland with a score from 1929 beats the Cleveland Browns beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 13-10 on this Sunday. Just pure defensive battle here. Neither of the offenses could really get anything going, but the Cleveland Browns are 7-3 in a wild card spot. Who saw that coming?
No, I'm lying. I didn't.
Yeah, I was like, you better put the bet in. Steelers fall to 6-4. Chargers fall to Green Bay 23-20. They're at 4-6. I mean, what? How does Brandon Staley still have this job? What kind of blackmail does he have on the team owner or the general manager? There's something fishy going on.
Yeah, well, after he blew up a little bit at the press conference about calling defensive plays, I could see a little shift in how the rest of the season could play out for them. So if they drop the next 2 or 3, I could see him dropping at midseason.
Yeah, I don't know. If you haven't pulled the trigger yet, man, I don't know. Buffalo 32-6 over the Jets. I expected this to be a little bit more competitive, being a divisional game,
Yep.
being I guess this one was in Buffalo, but they smoked them. So Buffalo advances to
Yep.
to 6-5, most turnovers in the league. Ravens sit the 1 seed. We said that earlier. Chiefs at the 2. Jaguars 7-3 at the 3 seed. Dolphins 7-3 at 4. And then the other two wild card teams are the Steelers and Texans. If the playoffs were in today, Bills outside looking in, Bengals outside looking in, and the Colts and Broncos sitting at 5-5. Broncos are on a little bit of a streak. They're starting to figure some things out.
Yep. Little heater.
A little bit of a heater. Their defense is starting to play up to the standard of what we expect a Denver
Yeah.
defense to play to. They are currently second fiddle in the AFC West at 5-5. Raiders 5-6. Chargers 4-6. I mean, 7-3 ain't looking too bad in that division.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. No doubt. Could be worse, that's
Is
for
there
sure.
any chance you see the Chargers turning that thing around?
No way. I don't. And I think they're at the point now where it's I mean, I don't know if you saw the run by Austin Eckler looking like CEH out there or looking like Mike Allscott, running down the sideline there. Didn't look well. I mean, that was probably a 75% effort. I'm not sure if he's hurt. I'm not sure if the Chargers locker room has wrapped up the season and they're ready to stay healthy and move on to next season. I'm not sure how that looks for
They're
those
ready to go
guys,
to
but
Cancun.
not looking well. Yeah.
They want that beach trip. They're sick of the LA sun. They
Yeah.
want that south of the equator sun. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
So we'll see. I mean,
put this
looking at
Eagles
the
loss
AFC,
behind us, man.
it's yeah, 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 yep. And move on. We got to move on. Tomorrow's a new
Yeah,
day.
we got tomorrow's a new day. Carpe diem, baby. We'll come back later in the week with the Raiders preview. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's out there going to celebrate. Be safe. Enjoy the time with the family. Trey, I hope you enjoy some turkey, some stuffing. Before we wrap it up? What's your favorite Thanksgiving side? Everyone loves turkey and ham. That's off the table. You get one side to eat with your turkey and ham. Where are you going?
It's gotta go. It's gotta go stuffing. But there's a certain kind of stuffing. You know, if you don't make this, I don't even know how to make it. I just eat it. I don't even know, but
Stuffing
it's got to
does
be the
have to be
perfect
made
stuffing.
right, I think. If you're just throwing
Yeah, and
water in the stuffing mix, that ain't gonna do it for me.
nah, you need some butter. I don't even believe in the water. I think it's got to be chicken broth or beef
It's
broth,
gotta
to
be
be honest
broth,
with you.
my guy.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. So right neck and neck with the with the stuffing is mashed potatoes, bro. It's a classic.
Yeah. That's my all-time favorite side, mashed potatoes and gravy on Thanksgiving. Can't beat it. Um, I gotta say, green bean casserole has really grown on me as I've gotten older. I don't know what it is, but that's my one B, the green bean casserole.
Um, I'll be damned. I'll be damned. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Yep. All right, man. Well, enjoy the holiday. Hope everyone enjoys your time with your family, and we'll see you later this week, Red Friday.
Let's go.
Peace.